Okay, so I was wrong. In my last video, I went over the currently available extensions or plugins for Luminar Neo, and one of the plugins that I covered was the background removal AI extension. One of the things that I mentioned was I was frustrated without a way to refine the mask. And there was, in fact, a refine the mask option. I just didn't see it. And the reason why I didn't see it was because it doesn't appear until after you remove the object from the background, and then you have the ability to refine the mask. The other thing I said was that I felt that I couldn't recommend the tool because I didn't really feel like it was ready for prime time. And I'll be honest with you, I stand by that. So in this video, I'd like to show you a little bit about how I came to that conclusion, and I'll show you how that refine mask option works, and I'll show you where its shortcomings are and what it's actually very good at. There are some scenarios where it is in fact very good, but there are some scenarios where it just falls flat on its face with almost no way to fix the issues. So hey, let's take a look at this together and let's see what you think. Okay, so here we are in Luminar Neo, and I have a variety of images that we can try out. Now, if you had watched a previous video, you know that I did this image here, the elephant, and I had some issues with it not selecting all of the trunk. But hey, let me show you exactly what I mean. So let's take a look at this image. And this is a straight up image here, black on white, right? And this should present absolutely no problem for the background removal. So let's go ahead and hit edit. And what you do is go into layer properties, then click on masking, and then select background removal AI. And you'll see these little cute little graphics that appear over the image while the AI works its magic. Now, it does take a hot minute for this to happen, and I am, of course, recording my screen. So, all right, but you see there, it does a pretty darn good job, right? And now, here's the weird thing. To me, I just don't like the way this works. To get the refinement tools, I now have to press the remove button. So now rather than getting a good selection and then pressing remove, I have to actually remove the object and then try and fix the selection. And I don't agree with that workflow, but hey, that's the workflow. And so we just have to deal with that. So now that we've actually made the removal, you'll see that there is the refinement brush option that appears here at the bottom. And now I can mouse down on this, and I have 3 different brushes that I can use: transition, object, or background. And I can have I have a little size slider here as well. So if I select transition, well, I can try and select transition. Okay, yes, I can. You'll see it comes out as gray. If I select object, it's the same color as the object, and background, it would be blue, same color as the background. So I'm going to select transition. I'm going to try and fix these little holes right here because those should be see-through. So let's kind of brush that in and let's see what happens. And then we missed some parts of the image up here, the hot shoe for the camera. And you see it fixes that right away. And it looks like it fixed this one as well. So that's great. Now, there is a way to see what I'm actually painting. And this is kind of a little hidden secret here. I'm not really sure why. But if you hold the backslash key, you can see your original image. So now I need to fix this. So I'm going to use my transition brush here, and I can actually paint on my image. I can release that backslash brush. And in theory, now, I guess we're to assume that the program is doing something. Now, again, another one of my problems with this is there's absolutely no indication whatsoever that the tool is doing anything at all. And I think it's actually trying to figure out that selection right now. But, again, there's nothing on the screen whatsoever that tells me that it's doing any work. And I have noticed, though, that if you change the zoom factor, sometimes the changes will pop in, and there it goes. You see, I changed it to 100% zoom, and all of a sudden those changes appeared. So there's definitely a little bug there, but it did find that hot shoe. It's not a perfect selection. It looks a little bit transparent, but overall, this looks like a pretty good selection. And you got to admit, this was nothing short of a ground ball for it. So it should have been able to do it, no problem. And now my selection at the top, there it is, it's back. Okay, so That being said, right, I can just close this up and exit the tool. And once I've exited the tool, I have a pretty solid selection that I'm fairly happy with. So not bad there. But again, this is an easy one. All right, so let's take a look at another image that should be very simple for Neo to cut out. It is this plane that's on a blue sky. Right, so this on the surface looks like our results should be just as good as they were with our previous image. So let's give it a try. Layer properties and masking, background removal AI. And again, you'll see it's working its little magic there, thinking, and eventually it will make a selection. And there you see it. We have what on the surface looks like a pretty good selection. Looks like I missed a little bit right there. And so, again, we can't fix this ahead of time, which would make more sense to me, but I have to actually remove it from the background first, and then I can do my fixes. Okay, so I've done the removal. It actually looks like it got that area, but you see we have a very ugly halo around this plane of blue. And if I was pasting this onto the exact same color blue sky, it would be fine. But even if I was going to paste this onto a lighter color blue sky, this would be noticeable. So this halo is absolutely not acceptable. So I can, again, go back to the refinements brush, and using this transition tool, I can try and work some of these edges here and see if I can get a little better result. And it does take away some of the halo. Now I can zoom in a little bit here. And one trick that you can use when you have a straight edge is just click in once, and then hold the shift key and then click again. And in theory, it will make a straight line for you. There you go. So by holding the shift key, click once, click again, that'll make a straight line. So that, again, it removes some of the halo. Let's try it on this edge over here. So I'm going to click, hold shift, click again. And we get that straight edge. And you see, again, the halo cuts back a little bit, but is definitely still there. Let's go into 200% so we can see that edge. So you know, I have a problem with that because we can't get rid of this blue halo here, and that to me is a problem. Now we can, of course, go around again with this transition brush, and it is going to cut some of this blue back, no question about that. Again, we'll do our straight line trick there, and again, it is cutting some of it back. We can go over it a little bit more. And it's okay, but it's confusing to me because this really should have been almost the same results that we saw with our previous image, right, with the black camera on the white background. But again, we just can't get rid of that fringe. Actually, it looks like I took a little too much. Let's use the object brush to paint that back in there. And there we go. So let's just take a look at what this would actually look like. And, you know, I mean, I guess we could go with the background brush and really, really like come in really super tight on this. Maybe 300% zoom. Let's take the brush and let's see if we can paint out a straight edge here and see what happens. And you see when you do that, look what happens. It removes the wing. So let's undo that. So really you only have the choice of the transition brush, you know, to try and work that halo away. And that's just, it just doesn't work. So let's take a look at what this actually looks like. All right, so here it is. Let's go to fit screen. And now let me just throw this on a white background. Let me add this layer in, and I'm going to put this white background behind the plane and set it to 100%. And you can see that blue halo all around this plane very, very clearly. Okay, so in this regards, I don't really understand it. And yeah, I could have done a little better job here and whatnot with the transition brush, but I don't quite get it, but it just doesn't work very well. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, well, what would have happened if we did this in Photoshop? So I did. I'll spare you the 3 minutes of the cutout, but this is the Photoshop version, and you can see it is devoid of almost any blue halo. A little bit there, I could fix that. But this cutout is just super clean. And so does Photoshop do a better job? Yeah, a lot better. And again, there are little parts here and there that I could fix, but 99% of that blue halo is gone. There is a little bit of blue here, and this is actually on the plane itself, so I can kind of forgive that as reflection. But you don't have that hard edge, and I can blend this and I can fix this very, very easily. So, hey, listen, does it do the job? Yeah, it's okay. Could it be better? I think it could be. Okay, so next example, we have a bird here. This should be, again, a fairly easy cutout. Let's go over to Edit and Masking, Background Removal AI. And again, the AI works its magic. And in no time at all, we will have a pretty good cutout. Okay, so it's not great. Again, we can't fix it until after we make the cutout. So let's do that. Okay, so now, again, we're missing a good section of this bird, but let's use our / key, and we're going to open up this Refinements brush tab here. I'm going to use the transition brush, and I'm going to paint in this missing section right there. All right, now I've painted that in, and again, you can see, and just for the record, I'm in the Windows 11 version. I'm using Windows 11 as my operating system, latest version of Luminar Neo, and you can see the tool appears to have done nothing. But if I zoom in to 100%, all of a sudden, boom, it actually did correct that area that was missing. So now let's try and fix these little toes right there, or I guess they're not really toes. They're claws. I know. And again, it looks like nothing happened, and I think the tool actually is working. There it goes. And let's try and fix this section of the tail. So I'm going to use the object brush for this and just brush this in here. And let's see what happens. So looks like this needs a little bit more work there. We'll try and get the transition brush. So it doesn't actually seem to actually do anything until I press the next tool. And that time it did it. So yeah, it's a little hit or miss there. It's a little strange as to how and why that works. So it got the tail pretty well. Looks like I have all of the feet or claws or whatever this is. There's a lot of detail here that I'd like to capture. So let's see if it's possible to capture some of that detail using the transition brush. Let's see what happens. And it looks like it is grabbing a little bit more of those kind of hanging, almost fur-like feathers. Let's see if we can get this in here. Okay, let's go back. And a little bit over here I'd like to get. And again, as soon as you apply the brush to the next step, often it will kick in. So definitely a little bug going on there. But overall, I'd be super happy with this. So let's go to background removal. And now let's drop this on behind our white layer again, just so we can really get a good look at what this actually looks like. I'm going to drop this white layer behind the bird and increase the opacity to 100%. And you can see we have a pretty good cutout. I mean, that area right there maybe wasn't perfect, and that's probably on me. I probably could have got the transition brush. But overall, it does a fairly good cutout on this particular one. So I'm happy with this one. Okay, so here we are with the elephant photo that I demonstrated in the previous video. And I have really worked this elephant multiple times to see if I can get a good, clean cutout of this elephant. So let's see what we can do. And like I said, I've practiced with this multiple times now, so I'm just giving you the heads up on that. All right, background removal AI. And let's let the magic of the AI do its thing. All right, so the AI has made the selection of the elephant, and you can see there's some problems. The tail has some problems. The trunk obviously partially is missing, and the tusk as well. So again, we can't refine this straight up. We have to remove it first and then make refinements to it. And now we have our elephant. So let's hit the / key here. Let's open up the refinement brush and let's press object selection. I'm going to make this nice and small. And I am going to draw in right on this trunk very carefully. Make sure we have all of that up there. And I'm also going to draw in on the tusk. Now let's see what happens. And it looks like it got some of it. All right, let's see if we can help it out a little bit. And let's see if we can get it a little bit better. No, still having a problem there. So let's try the transition brush. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's just a little delayed reaction until we hit that next tool. So let's use the transition brush around the edge here and see what we can get. We're missing a little bit of the top of that trunk there. And that looks a little better. Looks like we could use a little refinement over there. And that looks a little better. We definitely have some problems over here. So let's use transition there and see how we do. And that helps things out a little bit. Let's zoom in a little bit here. And we have a little problem there, but let's use that transition tool and see if it resolves the problem for us. If we can find the edges. Not really so much there. Let's remind that program that this is part of what we want. And we'll see how that goes. And it looks like nothing's going to happen, but let's pick the next tool. And let's let the program know that this is background here. Right there. And again, we kind of have a little mixed result there. So we can kind of draw this in a little bit and we'll see what happens. Okay, now let's take a look. See, so now part of my concern about this tool is we don't really have the ability to see the object that we're cutting out on anything other than this view. So I won't know really how good the cutout is until I drop it on the white background, which to me is also problematic because there may be areas that I'm going to see after I drop it on white that I don't like, and I have no means of fixing that then. And that didn't work out so good. We're trying to get rid of that green down there. And let's try a transition over here. See if we can fix that up. You know, I see like some murkiness here and in here that it's very hard to actually see on this interface, but when I drop it on white, I definitely will see it. And again, you know, no matter what I do with this transition brush, it's not going to really clean this up to my satisfaction. And again, it just makes it murkier. If I go, let's go straight up background and just tell it, hey, get rid of this. See what it does. And that's better. All right, let's get rid of some of this right there. And that took a little more than I would have liked, but maybe I can fix that with transition. And you see, it's kind of like it's almost like a battle of back and forth with this because you can't define a hard edge, and it becomes a little bit of an exercise in frustration at a certain point. You know, it would be nice just to be able to define a hard edge and say, hey, this is what I want. No more, no less. All right, so let's remove this and let's go to fit this on screen. And now we'll take our white background here and let's bring up the opacity up to 100. And now we can really kind of take a look and see. Let's go all the way in. And you can see, I mean, we fought with this and it's just, I just wasn't able to fix it, bottom line. We have these edges here. These edges are kind of murky. And, that green came back here and there. We got a little bit of, gray fringing along the edges here. And look at this. So you didn't see this at all until I put it on a white background. And now you can very clearly see how poorly this section came out. But when I was on the other default view, it looked fine. And now you look at these edges, and these edges are great. So there were spots where it was able to excel. This was a little bit of a fail over here. Overall, the cutout is at best okay. All right, last but not least, airplane on a straight up blue sky. Let's see what happens. Layer properties, masking, background removal AI. And again, the magic happens. Just so you know, I am on a 12-core processor running 32 gigs of RAM. So things do happen pretty quickly for me. And that is a pretty good cutout right there. It needs a little fixing. Let's remove it. And then we'll see what we can do. All right, so now that we remove it, we see it does need a little bit more work than was initially apparent. But I think that with this refinement brush, with using possibly the transition, let's see if that can just clear up this section over here and over here. And let's try and remind it that this is part of the object. And again, it looks okay. So on this interface, it looks okay to me. I'm, fairly happy with this. So we'll drop it on white and we'll see what happens. I mean, it looks like it did a pretty good cutout on this. And there is a little bit of blue fringe, but not like we saw on the other image. Let's just grab this very edge right there. And let's remove it. Okay, let's fit the screen. Let's add in a white layer. Okay. Bring the opacity up to 100 and drop it behind the plane by changing the order. And I mean, this isn't bad. I mean, there are problems that I now see. That edge wasn't really all that great. But it doesn't have the fringe that the other plane had, which is kind of strange. And we could have fixed this up probably, but a much better cutout than the previous one, and I could have cleaned that up a little bit too. And the problem is you don't see these things till you drop them on white. If we got rid of this layer here, then we could just save this out as a PNG file, and we'd have a transparent object. All right, so I'm going to remove this layer. And now from here, I'm just going to go over to Share To. We'll share this to a folder. We're going to change this to PNG. And if you click on Save Transparency, you will be able to use this image again. You can also change the bit depth to make it a little bit of a smaller file size. And you'll be able to use this cutout image on other images that you have within your catalog, or make composites, or use it down the road on something else. So you would do that by just exporting this, and you'd have it cut out and ready to use as an object. All right, so that's my take on background removal AI. By all means, let me know in the comments if you think I'm wrong about this. I think that this plugin is sometimes good and other times just not so good, and it lacks a few things to make those hard edge refinements that you'd need to really do convincing composites. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I'd love to hear if you thought I was wrong. Hey, well, thanks for watching, YouTube. I appreciate you. If anything in this video has helped you out, please help me out by hitting like, subscribe, ring the bell, and please leave me a comment. If you follow the channel, I try and answer as many comments as I can. So, hey, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.